Okay, let's do this. So we have the Ace of Swords through to the 10. They already look a bit complex, don't they? But that's okay. So the thought ignites new ideas, and it's the universal gift. So it's a gift of reason and logic. It's like decluttering the mind of unnecessary thoughts and memories. And then the Ace, you focus on one thing at a time, and it becomes that, again, the aha moment. So the Ace only focuses on that one thing at a time, and then keeps following it. So a really simple example of this was I had no idea how to do share screen on a Zoom call. But then I remembered a couple of sequences that randomly just happened while I was working on my computer. And it was the Ace of Swords moment. It said, no, remember when you did that. And within 5 minutes, I'd learnt how to do a share screen. So it could be something as tiny as that, but it gives you this free will to be able to go and learn something new or to act on an impulse. So, and in bigger concepts, it becomes that act of free will that also makes it a beacon of hope for truth, that wasn't known to us before. So it gives you a sense of anything is possible. It can be, a problem that you've solved, or an an idea that becomes unblocked. So it's an intellectual energy burst out and says, I'm ready to learn something new, to study, to paint, to draw, to write. It could be to do a crossword. And so as with the aces, all of the aces can be fleeting or they can be life-changing. So then we jump into the 2. The 2 of Swords becomes the duality, and it's about choices. So the 2s introduce relationships, and the new spark of an idea now makes room for another person's opinion. So do I listen to myself, or do I listen to the other person? Or maybe I'll just do nothing at all. And that's what this card chooses to do. It sort of sits in this impasse. So choices can be difficult to make if you're not in the right frame of mind. And sometimes it's good to just write a list of pros and cons, or even do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So being in 2 minds simply means just decide. So imagine playing out each choice and do the one that feels good in your gut, and see how there's no point on the sword. Sometimes with this it can be there's no point to the thinking. So eventually you can use the 2 as an opportunity to pull another card on what do I need to release and what do I need to embrace. So we move from the 2 and then we move into the 3, and this is fertility, infertility. So this is old wounds. So this is where nothing's really growing, the mind isn't fertile, because it's remembering a divorce, an affair, it could be arguments, it could be as a child hearing people fighting. It all brings back traumatic memories, and then it can come up in your current relationship or at work, or just that feeling of the inner victim plays out. Why does this always happen to me? That's what this card wants to shout. It is healing though, like there is, feeling human in our feelings is really important, and being able to express them without judgment while we hold that space. And then there's also a time to move on from that. So the inner child is a really powerful memory keeper. She needs a safe place to express herself. So from here, we find that safe place and we move into the 4. This is where we learn how to trust our mind again. So taking time out for introspection, meditation. It may be even taking a few days off work. It could be attending a silent retreat. Peace and quiet is really necessary for healing. If you don't plan to take leave, the universe will do it for you. That's a reminder in this card. So see how trusting that these swords won't fall down and hurt this person. That's what meditation does. It calms our mind so that our thoughts We trust that our thoughts won't hurt us. And we can't stay in the 4 forever, so we do move. And then we find in the 5 change and friction. And this is an anxiety card. So why can't I clear my head? That's what's going on in here. Too many voices lashing out and creating drama. The need to rise above situations and see, the pattern from above. So this could be, you could be the person that said what you've needed to say and these people are walking away, or you could be the person walking away and you've had someone telling you off. I don't think there's a winner either way in this card. So think about how you would feel snickering as they're walking away, feeling hurt. You wouldn't want that. So if a conversation isn't working, either leave the room and create a safe space to return when you have a clearer head, or if a situation isn't working, leave it and return to it later with a fresh perspective. This is a time when you're going through change and friendships might change. There's a saying or a quote, you're the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. This is where you're thinking about, do I need this drama in my world, or am I ready to move on? And here we do move on in the 6. So this is about release and moving on. It's the next stage of growth. So coming through the rough and into smoother waters, slowly but surely. So sometimes you can see this is you, your inner child, and your guide energy. So moving on can be challenging, especially when you've been mentally held captive for such a long time in the 5. Sometimes you look like you're walking and moving, but mentally you're still kind of there. That's how it can feel in the 6. But you actually, you go about your day and you look like you're putting one foot in front of the other, and people wouldn't even know that you've gone through a challenge. But that's how the 6 can feel. So freeing yourself from mental anguish requires reprogramming of old thoughts, and this takes time. There's a mantra, and it's from Spiritverse, which is a website, spiritverse.com, and there's a meditation that I really like, and it just says these 4 things. I love myself, I trust myself, I honour myself, I value myself. And you can just repeat that over. You might not feel it, but at least allow yourself to sit and observe where each of those sit. I love myself, I trust myself, I honour myself, I value myself. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to do. So once we've moved on, we now meet the 7, which becomes a catalyst for change and catalyst for authenticity. So this can be secrecy, and it can be where the universe is saying to you, just sip it for a bit. I want to keep my plans to myself just in case somebody stabs me in the back. And you can never be too sure in this card. So are you holding on to information out of necessity, or maybe worried that someone else is going to take your idea and run with them? Either way, you're going to have to come out of hiding at some stage and just walk as authentically as you can. Dr. Seuss says, those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So once you're finding your truth and honouring who you are, we meet the 8. And then we find entrapment. It's the same. These particular cards resonate very similar themes. So when we haven't worked through our identity and we're still feeling like we can't be authentic, we then feel trapped. So we can feel guilty for things that we don't need to be guilty for. It becomes limiting beliefs. It becomes self-sabotage. It's like self-imprisonment. It can actually be a prison card sometimes. So listening to too many people's opinions and then needing to, someone else to rescue you or to tell you how important you are or how good you are. But unless you believe this yourself, you'll never really hear it from anybody else. So self-talk in this card has become so judgmental that it feels like that there's no way out of the bind that you're in. if you took the blindfold off, you could see that there's nothing in front of you here. You could actually walk away. So in this card, it's time to recreate your identity and to take off your blindfold and see the world from a fresh perspective. So again, this is coaching that you'll go through and hear about understanding what self-sabotage and limiting beliefs, and we'll identify with those later on. Then we move into the Nine of Swords, which is conclusion. So 3, 6, 9, and the 9 represents conclusion. The 10 actually represents ending. So here's empty the mind. So anxiety, sleeplessness, worrying about things that aren't real, and feeling alone even when you're in a room full of people, and not knowing what's real anymore. So the perfect time to cleanse the bedroom, because this represents your sleep, and declutter the mind too before you go to bed. So writing a gratitude journal, writing 9 things that you're grateful for before you go to sleep. Could be changing your pillow, could be getting fresh sheets. So it's like listening to a ghost story in the shadow. You listen to a ghost story and then going to bed and being terrified of what could happen, even though it won't. So in the 9, it's keep asking yourself, is this fear real right now? Keep checking in with it. Is this real right now? No, it won't be. So everything will be okay in the end. Sometimes it can be hard to really grasp that, but it will be okay in the end. And then we have the 10 of Swords. There's no, even though there's the swords of, are in this person, there's no blood. So it's a really very symbolic feeling here of anxiety and worrying about things again. But now at least the body is starting to, it's like done as much as you can do. You know, when you've been really exposed and it's just like, I gave my all to that person. I put everything into it. Like I embarrassed myself. I said things I shouldn't have. I did it all. There's a sense of relief that comes from that because you're like, well, that's who I am. And yeah, it's raw. It's a really raw card. So, and that can be a wonderful thing when you allow yourself to sit in that. It's exhausting and it's draining and all those sorts of things. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, I'm ready for a new dawn now, ready for this new horizon that's coming. So I do see this as a real healing card. So don't be afraid of this card too much. So what I'd like you to do for a journal prompt with the element of air is, what thoughts are keeping you trapped or holding me back from expressing, I'll say that again. What thoughts are keeping me trapped or holding me back from expressing fully in my life? What idea is wanting to come to life? So as you just journal, the swords again, remember they're about the pen, they're about writing, they're about the mind. So when you've written your thoughts, pull a card for your insight to guide you for what to do next. And I'd love to hear how you go with that. So, and again, above there's a snapshot of the swords and it's through the eyes of a child. So they're in your notes there that you can have a look at as well. So let me know how you go with these elements. I'm looking forward to sharing the next 2 elements of, what have we got? Water and Pentacles next. So go well and lots of love.